In our previous video, we talked about material facts and we defined what material facts were about the Real Estate Commission. Let me remind you, license, law, and rule comments, remember you're looking in that and there's also a lesson in there about material facts. You're going to read it 3 times. You're going to look closely at the examples given by the Real Estate Commission. You will see that a lot of those examples have exactly to do with what I'm getting ready to talk about in this video. So prohibited conduct under North Carolina statutes. We're going to talk about a few words and we're going to put them here together. So I want to help you understand this. And I don't know why, but students miss things in this that probably with a little bit of thought they could get through okay. For example, we're taking the words willful and negligent. And listen, I know that these are not specifically the definitions I'm getting ready to give you, but it's the way I want you to think about them. When we think about the word willful, I want you to understand that this was done intentionally, okay? When something is done willful, we're telling you that the agent was aware of a material fact. When we say negligent, what we're describing is that an agent did not know, but they should have if they had been a reasonably diligent agent. Willful, you had actual knowledge of a material fact. Negligent, you didn't know, but you should have, okay? We're also going to pair these with the words misrepresentation and omission. I want to start with the word misrepresentation here because this is where most people miss. A misrepresentation could be a statement or it could be something in writing. For example, in the MLS, you make representations all the time in the MLS as an agent. If they turn out to be incorrect, they turn out to be misrepresentations, okay? So remember, misrepresentation, you either said something or wrote something. Somehow you conveyed information to the other party. An omission derives from the word omit, of course, all right? Omission means you left something out. Now, I want you to watch how these words work together as we go through this little segment here. And again, look at your example in license, law, and rule comments. A willful misrepresentation. Willful, you had actual knowledge of a material fact, and what did you do? You lied about it. We have another word for this. Liar, liar, pants on fire. That's what a willful misrepresentation is, okay? Sometimes referred to as fraud. These are probably the worst scenarios. As a matter of fact, they're also probably the most rare because typically when an agent knows, they will not just come right out and lie about it. If in fact an agent was found guilty of this would be the highest disciplinary actions that they would get, the most severe disciplinary actions. Willful misrepresentation. I had actual knowledge of a material fact and I just flat out told you I knew that the roof leaked, but what I did was I had the seller go up and I had them paint the ceiling so that you wouldn't see the roof leak. That is a willful misrepresentation if I tell you there's no problem with the roof. As a matter of fact, let me tell you this as well. Also, in North Carolina, there is no obligation for a seller to do their own inspections. And here's what I mean by that. North Carolina is a caveat emptor state. So it means let the buyer beware, and the buyer should do their own inspections. But here's what I mean by the statement that I just made. Even if a buyer chooses not to do an inspection, it doesn't give you as the agent the right to lie. So in other words, I know good and well that the air conditioning system is not working. Buyer comes up to me and says, hey, I'm thinking about buying the house. As far as you know, are all the systems working correctly? And I say, are you doing a home inspection? And they say, no. And I say, well, everything's working fine then. Okay, well, that's a lie. All right, clearly I'm going to get in trouble for that. And it, irrespective of whether the buyer does an inspection or not. Negligent misrepresentation. In this case, I told a lie, but I didn't mean to. But you know what? If I had been a reasonably diligent agent, I would have known that what I was saying was incorrect. I had a case with an agent who inadvertently disclosed the house as being 4,300 square feet when it was 3,400 square feet. Now you can see in this particular case that the agent probably was not trying to mislead anybody. My guess is they probably just got the numbers mixed up. But in this particular case, it went into the MLS. And so people were seeing that and they were relying on that information. Later, when that came out in the appraisal process, both the buyer's agent and the seller's agent were considered to be negligent in this particular case. The listing agent clearly knew the house wasn't 4,300 square feet. She should have caught her mistake and corrected it. In just a moment, you will see that the buyer's agent was guilty of what we call a negligent omission. In other words, he didn't pick it up. He never said that the house was that big. He was relying only on the information from the listing agent. But the fact is, he allowed it to be out there and open without question for his buyer to rely on that. Negligent misrepresentation. Look, you're not a liar in this case. You told something that was untrue. You made a misrepresentation, but you didn't mean to. But you know what? If you'd been a reasonably diligent agent, you would have gotten it. You would have picked up the fact that you were incorrect. Then we go to willful omission. Now, again, willful means I had actual knowledge of a material fact. Omission means I did not disclose it. I didn't say it. I didn't write it. I'm just thinking, you know what? If they discover it, fine. But if they don't discover it, I'm not saying anything. So in regards to a willful omission, I know that there's a problem with the septic system on this property, but nobody's lived here for 6 months. So the chances of that coming up is, not likely. They're not going to find out about that. But I knew about it. And if I know about it, I have to disclose that to the buyer, even if they're not going to discover it through normal diligence. Omission, because I didn't say. Willful, because I had actual knowledge. Okay. And this actually works both ways, whether it's going to benefit you or whether it's going to be to your detriment. Let's say, for example, that there's a case where you know that a zoning change is coming and you know that the listing agent made a mistake. The listing agent disclosed this property as being agricultural zoning, which is normally the least expensive land. And you know for a fact that a zoning change is getting ready to happen that's going to make it residential. Your buyer's getting ready to get a heck of a deal on this property because the listing agent made a mistake. Well, here's the problem with that. You as the buyer's agent know that they made a mistake. And keep in mind, this is where your real estate license comes in. Your license is a certificate of public trust. In this particular case, you know that the material information that's given on zoning is incorrect. You have to go to the listing agent and say, I believe you have a mistake here. I think that you need to know that this is now residential zoning, not agricultural zoning. Now, a lot of people will say, well, Chris, you just told them how to price the property. Why would a buyer's agent tell a listing agent how to price the property? No, the price is rarely the material fact. The material fact is they had it zoned incorrectly. In other words, they misrepresented the zoning. Willful omission. I had actual knowledge of a material fact. If I do not disclose it, that is a willful omission. And then finally, a negligent omission. Now, I want you to think about this for just a second. This sounds kind of weird. I got in trouble because I didn't disclose something. A negligent omission, I got in trouble for something I didn't disclose that I didn't know. How can I get in trouble for something I didn't know? So when we talk about a negligent omission, the Real Estate Commission asks us as instructors to point this out. This goes to your duty as an agent to discover and disclose material facts, not just disclose material facts, but to discover and disclose material facts. Let me give you the example that they use in the license law and rule comments. You'll be reading this. So let's say that I'm a listing agent on a house and I'm doing an open house one winter day. Okay. I'm in the house and it's chilly. All right. It's like 50 degrees in there inside the house. And I never go and turn the thermostat on. I mean, the utilities are on, but I never go and turn the thermostat on to find out whether the heat is working correctly. The buyer buys it. The buyer doesn't do an inspection. But remember, the buyer not doing an inspection doesn't get you out of any trouble, right? Okay. So the buyer doesn't do an inspection. Later, the buyer closes on the property and says, hey, the heating system doesn't work. Why didn't someone tell me? Well, in this case, was it not logical that as an agent, if I went over and turned the thermostat on and no heat started coming out, that I would have had a conversation on that? So in these circumstances, it's an omission clearly because I didn't say anything about it. It's negligent because a reasonably diligent agent should have asked the question, why am I not getting any heat when I turn the thermostat on? Okay, negligent omission. Actually be very cognizant of the responsibility of an agent to discover and disclose material facts. Take a look at your examples in license law and rule comments, and they'll do a great job of explaining these. You are clearly going to be tested on these.